everybody. Thank you for joining the panel. We have a pretty great set of people, and I'm going to go ahead and just start with introductions so we can kind of learn where everyone's coming from and how we're going to set the stage to talk about life post the hemp ban, specifically in California, and then how it affects the rest of the industry as a whole. So first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Nohtal Partansky. I am the founder and CEO of Sorting Robotics. All right. Let's see. Before Sorting Robotics, I worked at NASA JPL, working on projects for Mars. I have a system that's currently on the surface of Mars, producing oxygen from the atmosphere of Mars. After that, started this company and got some experience in the plant touching side of the industry. And then these days, we build robots for cannabis manufacturers. We have customers in the THC space all over the country and Canada, as well as in the hemp space as well. And that's me. So if you ever want to have any questions about automation in the space, let me know. Would you like to go?
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sierra Elaina. I'm the CEO for Lehua Brands. We're a beverage company here based in California and available in Canada and soon to be some other markets. Prior to coming on at Lehua, I worked primarily in the beverage space. Most of my professional career was working on Diageo brands and other well-known brands across the country. I got into cannabis working for Coda Signature, which is an edible out of Colorado, and then landed here about 2 years ago.
Hey everyone, happy to be here. My name is Raza Lawrence. I'm an attorney. I've been doing cannabis law in California for about the last 15 years. Back around 2009, my work was mostly criminal defense. That was when it was a felony to sell 1 gram of marijuana, to grow 1 marijuana plant. Thankfully, the laws changed. Back then, I was liberating a lot of people from jail and trying to keep them free. And now I do a lot of regulatory work, cannabis-related litigation, deals in the cannabis industry. Happy that our cannabis people are no longer going to jail for the most part, but the industry is obviously having a lot of problems, especially here in California. So I've been enjoying helping people work through those problems and try to help forge a path forward for this industry.
Howdy. My name's Kenny Morrison. I started my company in 2008 making edibles. In 2010, we made our first beverage. In 2012, we started another beverage brand. Did manufacturing, distribution, sales, collections, everything up and down the supply chain. And today, we are focused solely on beverage. We're an asset-light company, pivoted to asset-light in 2020. And we're doing licensing deals with our products in 8 different states across the US now. And we're also overseeing the hemp layer of our business ourselves, selling on our website and starting to penetrate brick and mortar.
My name is Teddy Cabugos. I'm the owner and president of Sunstone Winery. We're one of the, I think, the only winery in the world to come out with a THC product underneath the same brand. So that's kind of diversifying the product. We recognized really early on, less people are drinking alcohol, and so how are we going to, come up or stay on top of the following trends in the cultural shift that we are now in. So we're known for our expansive tasting room, lawns, and Sunstone Villa. We host several events every year, every week, weddings, and all different types of things. So if you haven't come in, stop by if you're ever in Santa Barbara.
Cool, thank you guys. So we have a pretty wide range of panelists today. And one thing I wanted to do to make sure that everyone in the room was kind of all speaking the same language is to give it to Raza in terms of explaining what is the hemp ban. That way we're kind of all working from the same platform of information. I know there are many people in the room, maybe they're not looking on the hemp side, maybe they are on the hemp side, but do you want a baseline for us? What is the hemp ban specifically, in California?
So I thought it would be helpful to just take a couple steps back, first of all, and just give a little bit of a summary of the lay of the legal land here, because there's certainly a lot of confusion about what the law is, the contradictions and conflicts between the laws in different places, and the laws have been changing so quickly. So just a kind of broad level overview to kind of set the stage here. everyone knows about the Controlled Substances Act. Marijuana is Schedule I drug. It's been that way for decades. Not allowed to sell it, even for medical purposes under federal law, and it has serious criminal penalties. And thankfully, in 2018, there was the federal farm bill, and that carved out hemp from the definition of marijuana. And the way that hemp was defined has really set the stage for this kind of burgeoning hemp industry that we've seen really in the past few years really taking off. And some people call it a loophole. Whatever the case, the way it was defined has allowed a lot of high THC products to be sold legally under federal law. And that's basically because hemp was defined as including any derivative of the marijuana plant that has less than 0.3% delta-9 THC by weight. And not the total THC of the product, but by weight. So once you start calculating that out, you can have a lot of delta-9 THC in a product, and it still meets that federal definition of hemp. A 12-ounce beverage, if you weigh it out and calculate how much THC, I believe you could fit over 1,000 grams of delta-9 THC in that can, and it's defined as hemp. It's allowed under federal law to be sold, and that's over 100 times the California recommended dose for THC. Now a lot of stoners probably in this room are used to doses a lot higher than 10 milligrams, but still it was kind of shocking the way they've defined hemp. It allows high THC products to essentially be openly sold under federal law throughout the country. Now we've started to see states adopting their own rules. In some cases, you'll hear about this today, totally banning certain hemp products, regulating them in different ways. It's sort of been like alcohol, where some states are more restrictive, some states are more loose, but you're allowed to have a national market because the federal law allows it, and different states have their own approaches. And throwing another complication into all of this is the FDA, and we have hemp carved out of the Controlled Substances Act, but there's something else called the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act that the FDA is in charge of enforcing. And the FDA has come out with this position that it is illegal under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act to have any THC or CBD added to any food or beverage product in any amount. And that's because these are recognized as components of FDA-approved drugs. The FDA has approved Marinol and Epidiolex, and those are for seizures and nausea. One of them includes a synthetic form of THC, and one of them includes CBD. But because of this, and the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act says you cannot put these in food or beverages sold into interstate commerce, technically under federal law, any CBD or THC in any food or beverage is illegal. And under the FD&C Act, it can be charged as a felony if you have repeated violations or involved in a conspiracy to sell these into the market. So because of this, you have the Farm Bill, which really liberalizes hemp, but you have this FD&C Act and the FDA's interpretation, which is still creating these problems under federal law. For whatever reason, it hasn't been really enforced. You can read on the FDA's website their position that these are illegal, and you can read about the criminal and civil penalties, but pretty much the federal government has stood back. Sometimes they send warning letters to companies for various reasons, but for the most part, it's been hands-off at the federal level, and it's been left to the states to regulate this, and you've really seen a wide range of approaches. But the main topic of this conversation, and something that affects probably a lot of people in this room, is the recent so-called emergency regulations that California passed banning any hemp products for human consumption that have any traceable amount of THC, even 1 gram of THC. If you have that in your hemp product and it's something that humans consume, it's illegal now under California law. And that includes not only selling it at retail in California, it includes manufacturing these products, it includes selling them at wholesale, and even selling them to people outside of California from within California. So this is a time when, you know, when California started cannabis licensing 2017.
So I'm gonna just so we can like go around a
Yes.
little bit. Yeah, thank you. That was perfect.
This has put a damper
Yeah.
on the industry, and we're here today to talk a little bit about how that might affect people in this room.
Let's do
going
business.
There you go. Yeah, thank you very much. That was good. I thought great. We went from big to where we are now in California. So if we can kind of dive a little bit deeper into each of the panelists, for the panel, I'd just like to talk really to the subject of our panel today, which is in the sandbox, that is this like post-hemp ban situation, what do you guys see is the biggest opportunity both in California and in the hemp cannabis market as a whole in the United States?
With
So-
the understanding that we're all potentially felons.
Yeah, with the understanding that we're
Got
all
it.
potentially, I mean, everyone in the room kind of is a felon, like low key.
There's a book out there where they found that the average American commits 3 felonies a day. The way the criminal laws are so broad and vague that really we're all committing
go.
crimes all the time without even knowing it.
Yeah, you know how they say, like, you go to hell for the company? So. All right, so next question. Yeah, why don't you tell me what's the most interesting thing post-hemp ban in this sandbox? What do you see as the biggest opportunity?
I mean, obviously beverage. I think beverage has always been set up to be easily absorbed by the existing 3-tier system across the U.S. and finding our place and where we belong there. We're a nice, when, non-alcohol beers are on the rise, people are looking for alternatives and more canna curious, if that's what you want to call it, and open-minded to it. The beverage industry is still thriving. It's still a $300 billion industry. You've got consolidations with the biggest distributors across the country. So for me and our team, it is of great interest to expand into other states. But we're going to take a minute because we can throw that word technically around all day long, and that's still a big word where I come from. Doesn't mean we're not having conversations and we're not touring facilities. We're just going to take a hot minute before we go all in.
Raza, you want to clue in what you see from maybe your client side?
Yeah, just in terms of the sandbox, I think we have to think differently, what's technically legally allowed and what's sort of culturally acceptable. And we've seen this huge explosion of THC beverages and food products across the country, a lot of them classified as hemp. And it's really entered the national consciousness in a major way. I think the law will catch up. And for now, we're not seeing a lot of enforcement. So, it's tough for lawyers. We can't really advise our clients to break the law. We can explain what the law is. We can help them comply with state laws. But I think a lot of people need to make judgment calls, what opportunities are out there and what level of risk are they willing to take. But there is a lot of opportunity in this industry. It varies on a state-by-state basis, but there's a huge opportunities, I think, in this industry now and going forward.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, I think hemp brands are now sort of pushing the envelope the way, brands that participated in the regulated market or the pre-regulatory market did years ago. But I think to answer the question, what's an exciting opportunity right now? As Raza said, I don't think anyone has a crystal ball as to what's going to happen with the Farm Bill next year, but I do not see red state weed going anywhere. Right, which means there are states without any sort of regulatory framework for marijuana, quote unquote, but they're more than happy to regulate hemp and put a more streamlined version of regulations around the industry and hemp products and labeling and manufacturing and all of that. So I think red state weed is a very solid, fairly safe, predictable sandbox to play in. I think the other big opportunity is obviously direct-to-consumer, right? You can scale a beverage brand via DTC faster and quicker than you can brick and mortar. So those are the two key opportunities for hemp beverage.
I think the opportunity is massive, especially in California. Again, California leads like the rest of the world in agriculture, just like it should for both cannabis, hemp. And so we do the same thing up in the San Ynez Valley, one of the best climates in the world to cultivate almost anything, wine, grapes, cannabis, hemp. But the beverage sector, especially the low-dose THC beverage sector, it doesn't really it doesn't compete with the regulated market. It's the only product in the cannabis space that I believe doesn't compete, especially 5 milligrams or less. So I do believe that the carve out for beverages could take place, and I think that, yeah, I mean, that opportunity is massive. As more and more people are drinking less alcohol, that unfortunately for the alcohol industry, which I'm in, that is never going to go back up. And we're in a cultural shift today, and that beverage market should be sold anywhere 21 plus, alcohol is sold. And again, it's a win-win-win. It's a win for the government, it's a win for the businesses, and it's even a bigger win for consumers. So, there's 80% of this country that won't ever walk inside a dispensary, and I think beverages is a perfect way for normalization for someone that's never even tried cannabis to introduce it to them. So the opportunity couldn't be bigger.
In terms of where things are headed legally, I just wanted to add that in California we have this hemp ban, but you still are allowed under California state law to sell beverages and food through a cannabis license that includes THC. So basically in California, they've cut out the state legal hemp THC market, but that leaves the licensed cannabis industry to supply these products, which are increasingly very popular. So at least in California, we're seeing it moved over to the cannabis market. I expect that more states might follow suit as more people start to recognize what some people think of as a loophole, allowing these high THC products. And just also where things are headed at the national level, everyone's probably heard about rescheduling, move to Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. I think a lot of people haven't thought through the practical implications. Schedule 3 means you can only sell cannabis or THC products through a doctor's prescription and through the form of an FDA-approved drug. So if it really is moved to Schedule 3, it'll be on the same legal status as ketamine, and you'll only be able to sell it through licensed physicians and through essentially pharmaceutical companies that get FDA approval, and some people think it might be heading in the direction of a takeover by Big Pharma. So it's unclear what the rescheduling effect will have, but at least legally, that's the direction it seems to be headed at the federal level. And as to what level that'll be enforced and what the practical results will be, it's sort of anybody's guess at this point.
One of the things I would say too for brands looking to enter into this industry is, I would say this to any brand, like, it's great. I used to always say, oh, you guys want to come to California? Come to California. Can you afford to be in California? There's a lot of support that goes into launching a brand. I think you guys can tell the story in other markets. It's not just, oh, we got a distributor and there you go. It's manpower, it's marketing, it's responsible messaging, it's finding great partners to manufacture with. And those are the other things that we have to consider when we choose markets and partners we're going to go in. It's not like cash starts flying the minute you get in there. Those distributors are going to expect a certain level of commitment if you go 3-tier like that from you as a brand.
You mentioned brands, and then Ted also mentioned the beverage market is the low-dose beverage THC market is really not competing with the regulated market, because that's not what people go into dispensaries to buy. They're not, oh, give me 3 milligrams of THC beverage that I have to pay $12 for. They're doing it on the hemp side. And I find that quite interesting because a couple weeks ago I was in a different investor conference for cannabis, and they were mentioning where there's this tension, and I think we kind of talked about that as well. There's this tension between the regulated THC space that's burdened with a lot of regulation, a lot of taxes, a lot of everything that I think a lot of people in this room are familiar with. But then on the hemp side, that is much less so. And so being able to play nice together in the sandbox is good. And then there's also this idea that was proposed at this conference where one of the investors was suggesting a comment that she made, which was, I'm surprised that every THC brand doesn't immediately open up a hemp side. Because why not? You already have spent so much money establishing yourself, maybe in California, maybe in Michigan, maybe in New York or Oklahoma or wherever. Why not just expand out? And this is another avenue where you can generate revenue from. And I guess just briefly, maybe jump on what you guys think about that idea. Do you like the idea of THC brands coming into the hemp space for other reasons, maybe to join or partner, or because we've seen that a couple times?
Can I just say something real quick? I find that interesting that an investor in this market would say for people to go do it because there's not a lot of money out there. Again, I think I've just been more cautious because I had a shit show to clean up, if I can cuss, already here in California with the THC side. So we've spent the last year kind of redefining our structure and getting our ducks in a row. We're poised to go that route, but I was on a phone call, and y'all probably have much more experience than me, with a manufacturer in South Carolina, and it was sketchy as shit, like no screens on and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, are they like in their mother's basement? Like, obviously I'm gonna go tour, but I think just to go blindly into it would be irresponsible for my current team. Like, again, we had to clean up California cannabis first. I think there's plenty of space for everybody. I myself prefer low dose. That's just where I am in the journey. California is normally a heavier dose market, but that's not the rest of the U.S. And I think sometimes in California we get caught up that we are the best, and I'll say it all day long, we are. But there's a whole other bunch of states out there that are just entering into this, and the low dose makes perfect sense.
And I think that cannabis brands branching out into hemp does make a lot of sense, for one thing, because it's federally legal on the hemp side. So with cannabis, you're stuck only selling within your specific state, and you can get charged federally even for that. But once you start crossing state lines, you're risking serious federal problems. But hemp, with the Farm Bill and legalized at the federal level, you can ship hemp into all 50 states. So it's a good way for cannabis companies to get their name out there. The similar manufacturing processes. Unfortunately, under California law and the cannabis regulations, you're not allowed to use the same facility to manufacture hemp and cannabis products. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I think you'll see the two sides kind of merging at some point soon, but hemp is really a good opportunity for people to get themselves out there to the national market because of the federal liberalization.
You guys want to chime in? Kenny?
Sure. I think it's just the obvious choice to do that, right? And so, we did both. We did a rosin cannabis-infused beverage and now a hemp-derived THC beverage. And in the cannabis, I like to get the product out to everybody, and if I can't get it to as many people, and so with just like very little access to the cannabis space, it was very frustrating. Kind of felt like a grizzly bear trapped in a telephone booth. And once you get into the hemp space and you can sell to restaurants, hotels, all those types of things, and to people in the travel industry, and there's just so much and so many other people that have never walked into a dispensary, like I said, that will try your product, buy your product. So accessibility is huge for the hemp opportunity.
Okay. Anything else? Let's go on to our final question for the panel. And this is more on the regulation side in terms of hemp bans. And so the question is, what do you guys see in terms of regulation in other states? Do you think a ban in California, kind of what we saw from the governor, is going to be an isolated incident? And what does this look like in 2025 for California and then also the rest of the country? What do you think that effect's going to be? Kind of look into your crystal ball, and what can you see?
Well, I'll start. I think that one of the great things the way about our country's political system is set up is states have a lot of independence. It's a sort of laboratory of democracy, they call it, where all the 50 states can try their own things. I think that a lot of states will start to realize that this is a hugely popular industry, that it involves a lot of harm reduction from alcohol and other drugs, and that this is both something that can help people, won't cause a lot of harm, and can make a lot of money for the state. So I think you'll start to see more markets being more friendly to it. At the same time, this definition of hemp is creating a situation where you can sell products with 100 times the amount of a standard THC dose in a drink, and I think that there will be some move to close those loopholes. I think hopefully what we'll see is the hemp and cannabis regulations merging and being something much less burdensome than what we see in California. California cannabis businesses are failing because the regulations and the taxes are so high that people are just going out of business. So I think that it's going to move towards a lower regulation, kind of merged industry. But for now, people should be looking out there. There's lots of states where you're allowed to do this under state law, lots of legal opportunities in this industry. I think it'll be opening up more and more as we go forward.
Raza, given the efficiency of our government, or lack thereof, give us a timeline, right? I mean, yeah, logic would dictate that these two markets would fuse at some point. But we know when it comes to politics and whatnot, cannabis is not a very important issue in the grand scheme of things. I would agree at some point these markets should become one market, but I'm not sure how long it will take for that to actually come to fruition. What do you think?
I know that the FDA has kind of thrown up their hands and said we're not going to get involved in making rules on this. It's up to Congress. And I know that the federal legal change has moved at a glacial pace. I thought for sure marijuana was going to be legalized under Obama. Here we are 10 years later and nothing has changed.
I think we all thought that.
Yeah, I think we're going to see regulations open up again. I think if states were smart, they could take, the models from Minnesota, New Jersey just passed some laws, and they did a carve out for beverages. And I think if, you can approach states, which we're doing. I'm going to a state on Sunday, meeting with policymakers. But if you can identify problems like California, using that as a perfect example, saying, hey, you guys don't have any regulations on hemp yet. You should think about putting X, Y, and Z of the strict regulations, safe for consumers, not marketing towards children, proper labeling, and all that type, lab testing, and all that type of stuff. And so we've written what we think is a best-in-class kind of bill/product. And so we're going state to state, trying to educate policymakers. So.
And I think, Teddy, you kind of glanced it because we talked, and that was what I was really impressed about you on the prep, is that we talked about it's not just educating consumers, it's educating the people that write the policies, so that you're out there at the front doing that is huge. They're the ones that got. If we don't understand it clearly ourselves, they sure as don't.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, so we are nearing the end of our panel. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and circle back one last time in terms of final thoughts. And I guess we'll start from Ted and on the way back. What are your final thoughts when it comes to hemp? What do we need to do to proliferate the fidelity of the industry? And we'll kind of go one at a time.
I'm really excited, and again, I think we need different voices. We need different voices from different industries, not just the same voices. So we need different leaders from the travel industry, from the technology industry, all these different people that can come and support what we think is a safe product, and those people in the room. And so I'm excited for 2025. I think it's a huge year of opportunity, and if California can kind of get it right, I think we can lead the way as globally as far as tourism, hospitality, and you add that to the whole, the California travel industry is a $160 billion industry. I think low-dose THC beverages are going to play a big part of that. Again, making up for the lost alcohol sales. I'm very excited and optimistic about the future.
Yeah, winery operator talking about collaborating with the travel industry. Makes sense. Cannabis industry talking about collaborating with the alcohol industry. Makes sense. 2025 hopefully is the year of strange bedfellows that soon after don't seem so strange, right? It's called normalization.
And I think in this industry, the roots of the industry are really people who have been willing to take risks and operate in an environment when there's a lot of reasons not to. And for decades, people were willing to risk going to prison. They found creative ways to get around the law. And I think even today, the law is really messed up. It has a lot of contradictions and things that don't make a lot of sense. But to the extent people can work together and try to forge ahead and blaze new trails, and I think that the legal landscape will catch up. But this is really about the people and being willing to make bold choices and to move ahead despite the risk and uncertainty we face.
You want 10 seconds?
10 seconds.
I would just say, I think that the lobbyists need to be educated and get in our corner. That's the big thing to the policymakers, that they're looking for manufacturing codes of conduct, responsibility messages, marketing, come to the table professionally and ready to take this thing to the next level.
Wonderful. A giant thank you to this session. Let's give it up for our panel. Thank you very much.